My deadbeat dad sold me to my ex-boyfriend, Alex, for $3 million. When we met again, Alex gripped my face, his voice cold and contemptuous. You're just someone I'm keeping on the side. While pregnant, I nearly died in the hospital from a lack of my partner's pheromones. 2 years later, Alex kept a vigil by my bed, pleading softly, please get better, just give me a little more time. Ugh! I clutched the lab report and heaved my guts out in the hospital bathroom, my shirt soaked through with cold sweat. 10 minutes ago, the doctor sat across from me and said, you're 7 weeks pregnant. I folded the report and stuffed it in my pocket. At the sink, I splashed water on my face and rinsed my mouth, my legs still trembling. Pregnant? How? I took the pill every single time. It wasn't until I was in the cab on the way home that I hesitantly raised a hand to my stomach. It was perfectly still, completely flat. There was nothing to feel. A storm of emotions filled my heart. I knew this child should never have been conceived. Alex hated me to the bone. How could he ever allow a child with my blood in its veins to be born? But when the doctor asked if I wanted to keep it or terminate, the word terminate got stuck in my throat. I couldn't say it. After a long pause, I finally mumbled, I need some time to think about it. That evening, I sat alone in the dining room, sipping my porridge one spoonful at a time. The housekeeper stood nearby, watching me in silence. The entire room was frozen, the only sound the occasional clink of my spoon against the bowl. It had been 2 years. I was trapped in this villa by a contract signed by my father and Alex, like a bird in a gilded cage. There were plenty of staff in the house, but they all seemed to have been instructed or trained never to speak to me. Every day, they'd efficiently tidy my room, wash my clothes, and move around me, but their eyes never once rested on me. They treated me like I was invisible. I was like a ghost, drifting through the villa day after day. When Alex came home, which was rare, I would silently endure whatever mood he was in. I focused on the bowl in front of me, ignoring the housekeeper who watched me like a prison guard, when I suddenly heard the front door unlock. 6 or 7 maids scurried toward the entryway in practiced, quiet steps. My hand, holding the spoon, paused, and I slowly looked up. Alex strode toward me. He must have come straight from work. His tie was still knotted around his neck. I put down my spoon, stood up, and waited for him to stop in front of me. Then I reached out and expertly loosened his tie. What brings you home so suddenly? I asked as I worked. Alex glanced down at the bland porridge in my bowl, ignoring my question. You went to the hospital today?
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't hide anything from him. A routine omega checkup. The government requires all omegas to undergo regular pheromone screenings. I had indeed gone for that test today, I just hadn't told him the real results. Alex said nothing more. He ripped the suppressant patch from the back of his neck, and the overwhelming scent of wormwood instantly enveloped me. In that same moment, my legs gave out. Alex swept me up and carried me upstairs. The moonlight pouring in through the windows melted into a scorching heat. My consciousness was devoured bit by bit until I finally blacked out. The next day, I opened my eyes to a clear blue sky. It was a beautiful day. Bright sunlight streamed onto the bed, but the space beside me was already cold. I should have been used to it by now, but the omega instinct to be near the alpha I was bonded with still left me feeling a wave of disappointment. For 2 years, Alex had never spent the night with me. No matter how late we finished, he would get up without a second thought and go to his own room to wash up. It was as if we were just a transaction, clean and clinical, with no loose ends. But once we were what everyone considered a match made in heaven. Alex and I fell in love in college. Everyone thought we were perfect for each other. Our family backgrounds, our looks, and the alpha-omega pairing. We were blissfully lost in our own happiness, unable to pull ourselves away. I thought we would be together forever, until our junior year, when Alex's family company was suddenly hit by one crisis after another. I clearly remember the forced smiles he wore for me during that time. I'd foolishly hold his hand and comfort him. It's going to be okay. I had no idea that the hand pulling the strings behind it all belonged to my own father. Then one day, Alex cut off all contact with me. I searched for him frantically, only to learn the truth behind his family's troubles from one of his friends. And the news that Alex's parents had died in a car crash. I ran home in a frenzy. My father was sitting leisurely in the living room, sipping tea. He glanced up at my tear-streaked, disheveled face without a hint of surprise. He spoke slowly. "What's this mess? You look ridiculous." A sharp pain twisted in my chest. I was so choked up I could barely form a coherent sentence. Was it you? What are you talking about?" My father asked, his expression unchanged. "You destroyed the White family's company?" "I did," he admitted without a trace of remorse. "It's the law of the jungle, the strong devour the weak. The market has its rules. The White family has been on a downhill slide for 2 years. It was only a matter of time before they collapsed. I just added a little fuel to the fire. Look at you crying like this. Are you their Omega? Leo, is your last name White?" I felt dizzy, like I couldn't breathe. The question hovered on my lips for a few rounds before I finally forced it out. "Did you kill Alex's parents?" I was terrified of hearing a yes. "No, not that," my father said after a moment's thought. "But Alex is useless now. Powerless, inexperienced kid. You need to throw him away, cut your losses." "Throw him away? Cut my losses?" In my father's eyes, Alex was just a piece of inconvenient trash, or a benign tumor that needed to be removed. As if he could see right through me, my father added coolly, "If you don't listen, I wouldn't mind sending Alex to go join his parents." I stared at him in disbelief, as if he were a total stranger. I backed away, shaking my head. "I have to go find him." The words had barely left my mouth when the front door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang. My father frowned. An Omega of the Price family does not get to be disobedient. That day, 2 servants dragged me away as I sobbed hysterically, watching my father use my phone to send Alex a short, final text message. Then I was locked in my room. After I was let out, I tried to contact Alex, but his phone number was disconnected, and his family home had been seized. It was as if Alex had vanished from the face of the earth, completely erased from my world. 5 years later, my family's company plunged into an unprecedented financial crisis. As the storm gathered, my father belatedly realized that the person behind the upstart company that had rapidly grown and crushed our own might be a familiar face. $3 million plus Alex calling off his attacks. That was all it took for my father to sell me. He even pretended to be considerate by asking for my opinion. He knew I would agree, because he knew I still loved Alex. That day, a car picked me up and took me to a villa in the hills. The stone-faced housekeeper led me to my room. The room was spacious and bright, but lifeless. Everything was minimalist. I waited in that room for 3 days. At first, I was a nervous wreck, thinking Alex could show up at any moment. Then I just grew numb and calm. On the 3rd night, I stood on the balcony, staring blankly at the bare, gnarled branches of an old tree in the yard. The branches twisted menacingly, a broken sliver of a crescent moon hanging between them. Suddenly, the door behind me slammed shut. I jumped. By the time I turned around, a tall, imposing figure was already looming over me. Alex's shadow completely enveloped me. My breath caught in my throat. All the surging longing and love I felt turned into a tremor in my rigid fingertips. I tilted my head up slightly and saw the sharp line of his jaw in the darkness. His features were the same, still so familiar, but his entire aura was completely foreign to me. My voice was a little weak. "Alex, don't fucking call me that." Alex's words were a blast of hot, alcohol-tinged air against my neck, but his tone was ice cold. "Right now, you're just someone I'm keeping." We hadn't seen each other in 5 years, and his first words shattered me right where I stood. My former lover was now gripping my chin, forcing me to look up and meet his gaze. $3 million. The heir of the Price family is only worth a measly $3 million. Ha! Alex seemed to find it hilarious. "Leo, when you were being your good daddy's little puppet, did you ever imagine that one day he would beg me to take you off his hands for a mere $3 million? Alex's grip on my chin was so tight it felt like he was going to crush the bone. The pain was sharp. His harsh words rang in my ears, but I couldn't say a single thing to refute them. because he was telling the truth. I don't know if it was from the cold or the sorrow, but I couldn't stop shaking. I could no longer bear the towering hatred rolling in his eyes. I closed my eyes, and a single tear slipped from the corner. That tear seemed to enrage him even more. He gritted his teeth. "What are you crying for? Look at me." I didn't listen. I kept my eyes shut, foolishly trying to escape it all. In an instant, the cold, aggressive scent of wormwood exploded around me. My strength was instantly drained, and I slid down the balcony railing without a fight. Alex didn't help me up. He just stood over me, staring down at where I'd collapsed in the corner between the railing and the wall. Seeing me gasping for breath on the ground, his expression softened slightly. He seemed pleased that after all these years, my body still obediently submitted to his pheromones. My eyes were red and my whole body was on fire. I was utterly humiliated. The sweet scent of orange in the air swirled chaotically, tangling with the cold notes of wormwood. Alex left. I sat on the balcony, surrounded by the mess, in a daze. That was the first time. The cold night wind cut into me like blades of ice, but I didn't feel a thing. After a long while, I finally forced myself up and shuffled slowly toward the bathroom. Amid the sound of running water, I finally broke down, hugging my knees and sobbing uncontrollably. Maybe it was because I'd caught a chill. After that night, I developed a high fever. It lasted for days. I was delirious, muttering nonsense, unable to keep down any food or water. In my feverish state, I dreamt of a large, dry hand, its touch cool and crisp, pressing against my forehead again and again. I tried so hard to open my eyes to see who it was, but I never could. After I regained consciousness, Alex didn't visit. Only a family doctor came by punctually every day to give me an 4 drip. As I ate the plain porridge and vegetables the housekeeper brought, I asked the elegant, silver-haired old man, "Sir, where's Alex?" The housekeeper's expression was cold, but his words were still polite. "Mr. Reed is very busy. Does he usually not come back? Where does he stay when he's not here?" The housekeeper didn't answer, only saying, "That is not for you to ask." I wasn't welcome here, by anyone. Bright sunlight, filtered through the tender green leaves outside the window, dappled the white comforter. I buried my head in the blankets, taking a deep breath, greedily inhaling the lingering scent of Alex's pheromones. I couldn't stop the feeling of loss. I didn't know if this disappointment stemmed from an Omega's attachment to the Alpha who had temporarily marked them, or if it was something else. I knew I wanted this child, but I was sure Alex didn't. I spent my first heat in this villa with Alex. Before my reason was completely consumed by the feverish passion, I had begged the housekeeper to buy me a box of suppressants. When the door opened again, it wasn't the silver-haired butler who came in, but Alex. As I recalled, it was the first time I'd seen him back since my fever broke. The moment he stepped into the room, the cool, bitter scent of him was ensnared by the thick orange fragrance. The temporary mark on my neck was still there. The man standing before me at that moment, to my logic-deprived mind, was an irresistible temptation. After a week of utter debauchery, I opened my eyes. Before I could even process the post-coital shyness and ambiguity, a white bottle of birth control pills was tossed onto the pillow beside me. "Take these yourself. Don't make things complicated." Alex turned and walked out, leaving behind nothing but a room of frozen air. And now my hand rested on my stomach. The feeling was still surreal. "Are you a complication?" I went downstairs and was surprised to find someone sitting on the living room sofa. Alex hadn't left yet. He was looking down, reading some documents. I froze, hesitating for a moment, debating whether I should quietly retreat upstairs. But as if he'd sensed me, Alex looked up just as I was about to turn. Our eyes met unexpectedly. My foot, which had just taken a step back, froze awkwardly in place. I heard Alex say, "Come and eat." "Okay," I replied, walking over obediently. During the meal, Alex said, "You're coming with me to a dinner party later." I agreed. But when I actually got there, I realized this wasn't the kind of dinner party I had imagined. The VIP room at the club was a whirl of hedonistic lights and colors. The moment the door opened, a medley of different pheromones spilled out. I frowned, forcing myself to swallow my discomfort as I followed Alex inside. There were 6 or 7 alphas, each draped with 1 or 2 boneless omegas, both male and female, clinging to their arms like vines. No one brings their partner to a party like this. My role here tonight at Alex's side was self-evident. In fact, Alex had made it clear to me the first time we met again. I was just his kept lover. I was the one who hadn't believed it. Seeing Alex arrive, the people inside all greeted him. Their eyesight then turned to me. Alex, got a new favorite? Someone who had known Alex for a while looked me over. Whoa, isn't that the young master of the Price family? His words sent a ripple of amusement through the room. Which Price family? Surely not. Which other one could it be? In an instant, the room was filled with malicious taunts. Everyone knew about the humiliation Alex had suffered 7 years ago. Now, seeing me trailing behind him, they looked at me like a dog that had gotten what it deserved. Shame made me lower my head, my cheeks burning. My stomach churned violently. The jeers from all around, mixed with the chaotic sense of pheromones, felt like a giant net, wrapping tightly around me, suffocating me. Alex, who had been silently letting everyone laugh, finally spoke. All right, Leo, go pour everyone a drink. I froze. My fingers, resting on the sofa, curled into a fist. I can't drink while I'm pregnant. I'm not feeling well. I don't want to drink, I answered hesitantly. Alex said nothing, his face expressionless. But the people around us started clamoring. Alex, he's the young master of the Price family. We're not worthy of him pouring us a drink. Yeah, look how arrogant he is. I shot a pleading look at Alex, but he wouldn't even look at me. He tilted his head back and drank a glass of wine fed to him by the omega at his side. That omega's cloying, milky pheromones hung stickily in the air, making me want to vomit. After finishing the drink, Alex paused, then said, Leo, don't be difficult. I closed my eyes, and with a surge of resolve, I picked up the glass to me. I walked over to the friend who had been laughing the loudest. Ethan, long time no see. With that, I tilted my head back. The fiery liquor burned my throat, and every cell in my body screamed in protest. A chorus of cheers erupted around me, each one fraying my already taut nerves. As I struggled to swallow the alcohol, someone casually mentioned, I hear wedding bells are in the near future for Alex and Miss Anne. My heart seized. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted from the room and rushed to the bathroom, vomiting into a sink. Tears blurred my vision, and my stomach cramped relentlessly. I was heaving so hard I couldn't stand up straight. As my head swam, a set of footsteps approached and stopped behind me. I clung to the sink, my stomach empty, just dry heaving over and over. My legs were so weak they felt like they were about to give out. A moment later, a hand slipped under my arm, holding me up. If you can't throw up, then stop, Alex said. I felt sick and weak, leaning against his chest, desperately trying to catch a whiff of his pheromones in the air for some relief. But there was no scent. Alex reached out and wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. The gesture was anything but gentle. TSK. Leo, when did you get so fragile? I was dizzy and disoriented, fighting the urge to gag, and didn't answer. Alex, is everything okay? Someone called out, having come from the private room. It's fine. You guys go on. I'll have someone send him home. That night, I was dazedly put into a car. A flicker of hope ignited in me. Before my brain could catch up, my mouth was already asking the housekeeper, did Alex call for him? The housekeeper's face was a mask. No, that flicker-s hope was instantly extinguished. Who was this and what did they mean, wedding bells? Are they getting married? Or do they already have a child? Then what does that make the child in my belly? I didn't dare to think about it. I turned over, my back to the housekeeper. I'm not sick anymore. You can send the doctor home. Sorry for the trouble. That night, Alex came back. He stopped by my bed, looking down at me. Why didn't you see the doctor? I sat up, staring at the bedsheets in front of me. After a moment of silence, I said softly, I'm fine now. There was no need. Ha! I heard Alex let out a contemptuous little laugh. Then why did you ask if I was the one who called the doctor? I said nothing. The housekeeper was really annoying sometimes. Did he have to report every single word to Alex? Does it matter if you called him or not? Alex reached out and lifted my chin, forcing me to look into his eyes, as if he wanted to see every emotion I was feeling. I didn't speak, just lowered my gaze, refusing to meet his. Is this your usual trick, Leo? Pretending to care? You've really perfected it. I listened as Alex tossed out his piercing words so casually. Next time there's a doctor, just see them. After all, the same trick might have worked 5 years ago, but it's not guaranteed to work now. Once trust is broken, it's so hard to piece it back together. I watched Alex's retreating back, a sharp, searing pain in my heart, as if a piece of my own flesh had been torn away. As if arranged by fate, the day after learning of Anne's existence, I met her in person. I was standing by a bookshelf, slowly flipping through a book, when a familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. A petite, delicate girl stood beside Alex, wearing a playful pink skirt suit that made her look lively and cute. Alex thoughtfully held the shop door open for her, and they walked in. Logic told me I should leave quietly to avoid embarrassment, but my feet felt nailed to the floor. I stared at them, almost forgetting to breathe. I heard the girl animatedly telling Alex about her admiration for Stendhal, saying she especially loved his sharp portrayal of suffering. Alex stood beside her, a gentle smile on his face as he listened to her chatter like a lively little sparrow. It wasn't until she pointed in my direction, saying she wanted to check the rare books section, that I snapped out of my trance and quickly turned to leave. I hurried through 2 rows of shelves, but was suddenly stopped. Leo! I froze. After a moment, I turned around stiffly. Alex stood behind me, studying me. The girl was gone. Alex, what are you doing here? I gave a bitter smile. Just buying a book. I should get going. I turned to leave again. Wait, Alex. 2 voices sounded behind me at the same time. I closed my eyes, feeling a sense of defeat, and turned back. The young woman was back. She stood beside Alex, looking at me with suspicion. A sweet scent of almond milk drifted over. Her pheromones suited her well. The Omega who fed Alex wine at the club also had a milky scent. Maybe that was Alex's type. Alex, who is this? I didn't speak, and neither did Alex. He stood opposite me, watching me with a probing gaze, as if he were curious to see how I would answer. He wouldn't want me to complicate things for him, would he? I resigned myself and spoke. I was a college classmate of his. As soon as I said it, Alex's expression seemed to darken. Was that the wrong answer? What did he want me to say? That I was his lover, right here in public? Did he really need to humiliate me like this? College classmate? The girl's eyes darted suspiciously between us, and then she said, with a hint of showing off, I'm Alex's fiancée. My name is Anne. My fingers clutching the book tightened. I didn't dare to look at Alex's face, afraid of seeing the deep love in his eyes, so I just smiled. Congratulations. The girl's gaze shifted down to the book in my arms. You like Stendhal too? She asked, a pleasant surprise in her voice. Her tone then turned regretful. I came here today because I heard this bookstore got a 1920 collector's edition of The Red and the Black. I can't believe you beat me to it. You're so lucky. Here, you take it. My mind went blank. I frantically pushed the book into Anne's hands. Really? Anne's voice was filled with unrestrained joy, but I couldn't stay a second longer. I just muttered, I have to go, and fled. Alex came home while I was eating dinner. So, you met and today. What did you think? I stared at my bowl, not looking up at him. She's great. Very cute. The moment I said it, I heard Alex snort. Cute? She is cute. She's 7 years younger than us. The perfect age for romance. My hand gripping the spoon tightened as I listened to him. You're so generous, even offering congratulations. Have you even thought about what happens to you when we get married? That wouldn't be good, I said, my voice calm, analyzing the situation logically. Miss and probably wouldn't like sharing a house with me. I can move out then? Move out? For some reason, Alex seemed angry again. In your dreams. Your dad took my money, which means you were sold to me. Whether I want you or not, don't even think about running away. He finished, turned, and left. Before he did, he slammed a thick, brick-like object onto the table with a loud thud. I looked down. It was the red and the black. Alex left on a business trip. It seemed like he would be gone for a while. He took 2 large suitcases with him. I sat on the sofa, nursing a glass of water. The moment he walked out the door, I couldn't help but stand up and call out, "Where are you going?" Alex stopped and turned back. He gave a rare reply, "San Francisco." I walked slowly over to him, reached up to straighten his collar, and said softly, "Stay safe. Come back soon. Come back soon. Maybe the baby can still wait for you." I couldn't read the emotion in Alex's eyes. I saw his Adam's apple move, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, no words came out. He just turned and left. A wisp of wormwood pheromones drifted into my nose. I stood there, dazed, inhaling the scent and staring at his departing back, unsure how to react. Cold, dizzy. It was the middle of summer, yet I felt like I had fallen into an icy abyss. I was curled up on the bed, surrounded by clothes I had taken from Alex's closet. He had been gone for a month, and the pheromones clinging to them were already incredibly faint. I clutched a shirt to my nose, greedily sniffing it like an addict going through withdrawal, grasping at my only lifeline. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. My ears were ringing, and involuntary tears matted my eyelashes together. I gripped my phone, Alex's number on the screen, undialed. The pain of pheromone withdrawal had shattered my willpower. Right now, I was desperate for his alpha pheromones, desperate to hear his voice. A wave of nausea hit me. I scrambled up and stumbled to the bathroom sink, dry heaving. After that wave passed, I finally broke. With a trembling hand, I pressed the call button. Beep, beep. I swallowed hard, watching the phone vibrate twice before connecting. "Hello?" Alex's voice, casual and lazy, drifted into my ear, but it sent a jolt through me, my mind going blank. I was finally hearing the voice I'd been longing for day and night, but suddenly, I couldn't speak. He's going to marry, and knowing the outcome, why was I struggling so pointlessly, about to shatter the last shred of my dignity? I heard Alex say my name on the other end. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Faintly, I heard a sweet Omega's voice from his side. "Alex." My temples throbbed. My hand gripping the marble countertop was white-knuckled. Finally, his patience ran out. The call ended with a curt beep. I gasped for breath, whispering to myself through clenched teeth, "Fine. Have it your way." I trembled, lifting my head to look at myself in the mirror. The open collar of my plain white pajamas revealed a deeply sunken collarbone. Above it, my face was ghostly pale, my lips bloodless. My cheeks were gaunt, covered in a sheen of cold sweat, tears, and even saliva from my recent gagging. I was a complete wreck. Forget it. The white lights of the operating room were blinding. I lay on the table, tears streaming silently down my face. I didn't choose anesthesia. The doctor had said, "An Omega like you, deprived of your alpha's pheromones, will have a very hard time with an abortion without pain relief. There's a significant risk of cardiogenic shock." I sat before him, pale, and said faintly, "That would be for the best. Let me be torn to pieces as an apology to my child." When the pain reached its peak, I opened my mouth, gasping like a fish on the verge of death. "You can scream if it hurts." The doctor's hands didn't stop. His voice was muffled behind his thick mask. My nails dug into my palms. I still didn't make a sound. Another tear slipped from the corner of my eye. A nurse wheeled me out of the operating room and called for family at the door. It wasn't until she was about to call for the 3rd time that I finally summoned the strength to say, "I'm alone." "Oh," the young nurse murmured, seeming a bit unsure of what to do. "You can go. Just leave me here," I said. My voice was very soft, almost a whisper. "Okay then, please be careful. You can sit here for a while longer before you go." "All right," I said. "The wheelchair? Just leave it." "I'll come get it later," the nurse said with a wave. "Thank you." I sat alone in the empty hallway for a long time, unable to recover. It wasn't until the operating room lights dimmed again, and the next patient was about to be wheeled out, that I slowly got up. Leaning on the wall, hunched over, I took one slow step at a time and walked out. I took my baby with me, a tiny, bloody little thing. The doctor didn't recommend cremation. He said the bones hadn't even formed, there would be nothing left after the fire. I planted him in a flower pot with a tiny jasmine sprout, nothing more than a pale green shoot. I put the pot on my bedroom windowsill, watered it, and let a few tears fall in as well. Little Jasmine, grow big and strong. Little Jasmine, my child, my treasure. The moment Alex pushed open the door, I woke up. I propped myself up on my arms, sitting up weakly, and managed a smile. "You're back so suddenly." Alex's voice was hoarse. What did you do today?" I paused for a second, then threw back the covers and got up, the faint smile still on my face. "I had a bit of a cold, so I went to the hospital." His tone was filled with disbelief. "Where's the baby?" My heart lurched. I suddenly couldn't look him in the eye. I spun around, grabbing the glass of water from the nightstand and bringing it to my lips as a shield. My voice trembled uncontrollably. "What baby?" As if he could no longer bear it, Alex strode up behind me, his voice tight with rage. "Leo, have you ever told me a single word of truth? I'm asking you, where the hell is the baby?" It felt like 1,000 tiny needles were pricking my heart. A dull, spreading ache. A strange courage suddenly surged through me. I whipped around, my nose almost brushing the fabric of his shirt. I looked up, my voice firm and cold. I got rid of it. I tilted my chin up, a strange, rebellious defiance filling me. There was even a hint of a provocative smile on my lips. But a tear still escaped, hitting the floor and shattering. Alex's eyes were bloodshot. He advanced on me step by step. I stumbled backward until the small of my back hit the corner of the nightstand. Hard. It didn't make much noise, but the impact was serious. My lower back went numb, and the jolt sent a fresh wave of pain through my abdomen. I let out a muffled grunt, forcing back the cry of pain that wanted to escape. Alex was now standing right in front of me. I had nowhere to run, trapped by him in this tiny space. "What gives you the right?" Alex's eyes were wide with fury, his tone menacing. The pheromones in the room were so thick that no one else would have been able to enter. It would only take a single spark to ignite a wildfire that would consume all the love, hate, and obsession in this room. I had never seen this side of Alex. Even on the night we first reunited after our separation, he had never shown such uncontrolled anger. But this time I refused to back down. I met his gaze, enduring the scorching heat of his fury, and said, "Because he was in my body. And because I didn't want him." Alex's anger turned into a cold laugh. The scent of wormwood filling the room morphed into icy daggers, flaying me alive, piece by piece. The nerves in my lower back and abdomen throbbed. It hurt so much, and not just physically. Alex reached out and put his hand on my neck. He wasn't really squeezing, it was more like a caress. But I slid to the floor uncontrollably. Alex didn't try to catch me. Instead, he crouched down with me. Tears slowly filled my eyes, blurring Alex's face, his eyes swirling with complex emotions. Alex seemed to struggle to get the words out. "You didn't want it? Because it was mine?" Hearing his accusation, a feeling I could only describe as grievance washed over me. He was my child, too, the only pure thing that existed between us, apart from this tangled mess of love and hate. And now he was gone. I had destroyed him with my own hands. The sense of grievance was like a flood bursting through a dam, impossible to contain. The room echoed with the sorrowful sounds escaping my throat. There was no going back. Now, what lay between us was family enmity, the deaths of our parents, and all that supposed mutual love, now ground to dust. Alex suddenly let out a low laugh. He chuckled for a long time, until his eyes glistened with tears. After a while, he stopped, took a breath, and patted my cheek with the back of his hand. His voice was hoarse. Mr. Price, I wouldn't dare. My breathing grew heavy. My whole body ached, as if 1,000 insects were gnawing at my bones. My limbs were cold. I lay on the floor, pathetically curled up, hunched over. After that jolt from the morning's procedure, the pain in my abdomen had become even more unbearable. I endured it, my consciousness fading. I don't know how long I lay there. Maybe an hour, maybe only 20 minutes. Suddenly, a jacket carrying the dry scent of wormwood was draped over me. The next second, I was pulled into a warm embrace. My eyelids were incredibly heavy. I struggled to open them and saw what looked like concern in Alex's deep eyes. I wanted to see more clearly, but I was just too tired. The eyes I had just managed to open immediately closed again. With my eyes shut, I felt Alex press his cheek against my forehead. He placed me on the bed, wrapping his arms around me from behind. His hand came to rest on my lower abdomen. I flinched, instinctively struggling to get away. But Alex held me firmly, his hand not moving an inch. The alpha's warmth seeped through his hand, slowly warming the place that had just lost a life. A comforting scent of wormwood floated in the air, free of any aggression, gentle and peaceful. For an omega, an alpha's pheromones are a powerful medicine. My body felt much better, and the anxiety in my heart also subsided. My tense nerves gradually relaxed. I curled up in Alex's arms, listening to the clock tick-tocking in the quiet room, as if the earlier confrontation had been just an illusion. After a long time, Alex's calm voice sounded behind me. I heard you didn't get any anesthesia. When you had the abortion, did you cry? In the dead of winter, Alex's words stirred 1,000 waves in my heart. I looked at the pot of tender green jasmine on the balcony, biting my lip hard to keep from crying out. But my trembling body betrayed me. I heard Alex sigh softly. He turned me over to face him. He reached out, using his thumb to wipe the tears from my face, but they just kept coming. He couldn't wipe them away fast enough. So he simply leaned in and kissed my eyes, kissing away every path the tears had traced. That night we slept in each other's arms, without violence, without suspicion, without all the turmoil of the past years. I hadn't had a good night's sleep in a long time. Maybe it was the toll on my body, maybe it was the low-grade fever after the procedure, or maybe it was the alpha's generous, soothing pheromones. Tonight, there was no insomnia. I cried myself to sleep, and for the first time in forever, I didn't dream. The procedure took a huge toll on my body. My immune system waged a war within me. My fever wasn't high, but it was persistent. It would break every morning, only to return by evening. This went on for half a month. For 2 weeks, the fever left me exhausted. My depleted body sought recovery in sleep, so I spent most of my time dozing in the bedroom. I hadn't seen Alex since that night. Sometimes I'd wake up after sleeping all day and catch a faint, fleeting scent of wormwood in the air. But when I tried to smell it again, it would be gone, as if it were just my imagination. I couldn't taste anything when I was sick. It was only when my sense of taste started to return that I noticed my food had changed. It was different from before, and I was being fed 4 times a day. I didn't ask why. I just ate everything they brought me. As I slowly regained some energy, I remembered my little jasmine plant. I went to the windowsill to check on it. After half a month of neglect, it didn't look well at all. It was in a worrying, unhealthy state. Its thin, broken leaves yellowed and malnourished. A sudden wave of sadness washed over me. Just like when it was inside me, it couldn't thrive. After being so sick, my awareness of the outside world seemed to have dulled. I paid little attention to the people and things around me. My world had become much quieter. This was good. It meant I could focus on taking care of my little jasmine. I watered it and used a small brush to clean the dust from its leaves, but it never seemed to get better. It just grew slowly, hanging on by a thread. My stomach hadn't been great lately, and 4 meals a day were hard to digest. I threw up everything I ate for dinner. The housekeeper came in again with a bowl of bird's nest broth. I sat by the windowsill, looking at the little jasmine, and asked the housekeeper, "Why is it yellow?" The housekeeper, holding the bowl, looked silently at the small green plant, then back at me. I hadn't expected an answer anyway, so I stood up and turned toward the table. Probably needs nitrogen. I stopped and looked back at him. He was the same as always, his expression serious, his silver hair impeccably combed. I can bring you some nitrogen fertilizer tomorrow. My mouth opened slightly. Okay. In the early morning, I was in my pajamas, crouching in the garden, using a small trowel to carefully apply the nitrogen fertilizer the housekeeper had brought to the base of my little jasmine. A shadow fell over me, enveloping me. I followed the pair of leather shoes that appeared in front of me upwards. Alex stood there, backlit by the sun. I tilted my head up, squinting. I couldn't see his expression, my mind a little fuzzy. He took off his jacket, draped it over my shoulders, and grabbed my arm. Inside, I instinctively pulled my hand back. No, Alex's patience ran out. He suddenly bent down and swept me into his arms. I gasped, instinctively wrapping my arms around his neck. I heard him grit his teeth in my ear. You're not even better yet, and you're out here in the wind without a jacket. Are you trying to kill yourself? I craned my neck to look at my little Jasmine. Stop moving, Alex said, walking quickly. My Jasmine. I'm not done, I protested softly. Alex stopped. He glanced back at the little green plant shivering in the cold wind as if contemplating a major problem. After a moment, he finally said, his patience worn thin, go back inside. I'll take care of it. The heat was on full blast in the room. I sat on the sofa, holding a cup of ginger tea, sipping it absently. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, Alex was crouching in the garden. His shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal his strong forearms, his back to me as he tinkered with something. After a while, Alex stood up and looked toward the window. I quickly lowered my head and pretended to drink my tea. A moment later, Alex came in and placed the little Jasmine in front of me. It's half dead. It won't last long. Hearing that, my heart tightened, and anger surged through me. It will live. My shout made Alex frown. He seemed about to say something, but stopped, swallowing his words. My eyes filled with a misty haze. I repeated to myself, it will live. I took my little Jasmine and went back to my bedroom. Alex came up and tried the doorknob, then started banging on the door. Why is the door locked? Come down and eat. The banging made my heart pound. I covered my ears, breathing rapidly, and shouted, I don't want to. The knocking stopped for a moment, then started again, even louder. Alex sounded truly angry now. I'm counting to 3. If you don't open this door, I'm having it taken off its hinges. The thunderous knocking echoed in my head, making it feel like it would split open. I buried myself under the covers, but I couldn't block out the noise. I don't know how much time passed, but the knocking finally stopped, replaced by the sound of the lock being picked. A few clicks later, my covers were thrown off. My face was still wet with tears. I saw Alex standing by the bed, a complicated expression on his face. He stared at me for a moment. Just when I thought he was going to mock me or yell at me, he said, his expression troubled, I'm taking you to a doctor this afternoon. The doctor had me fill out a lot of forms and run a lot of tests. After I came out, he called Alex in and they talked for a long time. On the way back, Alex and I sat side by side in the back seat, not saying a word. Alex seemed to be in a very bad mood, but I felt a rare sense of peace. I watched the green medians flash by outside the window. I hadn't seen the outside world in a while. Today, I noticed the little trees were sprouting new leaves, a sign that spring was coming. As the car neared the hills, Alex, who had been silent the whole ride, suddenly spoke, saying out of the blue, you can tell me if there's anything you want. I turned my head and saw he was looking at me. His gaze was deep, bottomless. Alex had been acting strange lately. Of course, I had been a little strange myself. It had been half a month since that incident, but it had left deep scars on both of us. That tense and chaotic night had never really ended. Tell you if I want something? What did I want? Could he give me anything I wanted? I didn't say any of this out loud. I just pursed my lips and asked tentatively, when are you and Miss and getting married? We're not getting married. Alex turned to look at me and said flatly, whether we get married or not, you're staying here. So give up on that idea. My little Jasmine was gone. The day after Alex took me to the doctor, I woke up and, as usual, went to look at the flower pot on the windowsill. When I saw the lush, budding jasmine plant on the windowsill, I froze, unable to process it. I got out of bed and walked barefoot to the window. Outside, a torrential rain was falling. The jasmine plant was thriving, its leaves a vibrant, dripping green, blooming defiantly indoors. My heart suddenly clenched, and my head buzzed. After a moment, my hands and feet went cold. I pushed open the bedroom door and ran right into the housekeeper, who was on the phone. The housekeeper looked at me, a little startled. My hand trembled as I pointed at the jasmine on the windowsill. My words jumbled. Where's my jasmine? The person on the other end of the housekeeper's call went silent. He paused for a moment, then said, "It's on the windowsill." "No, that's not it." I was going crazy. The original one wasn't doing well. We had the nursery staff take it away this morning. The taut string inside me snapped. A huge wave of fear and despair crashed over me, instantly swallowing what little sanity I had left. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. I grabbed the housekeeper's suit jacket, wrinkling the impeccably ironed fabric. I swallowed hard, my words coming out in broken pieces. "Where is it? Where's the nursery?" The housekeeper's expression changed. He seemed frightened by my agitated state and answered hesitantly, "Hillsborough Nursery. The plants there move very quickly. Once it's gone, it's hard to find. Are you trying to—" I couldn't hear anything else. I bolted out the door, leaving a chorus of shocked cries behind me. There was only one thought in my head: bring it back. It was morning. The sun should have been gently spreading its light over the earth. But now, the sky was dark, and a world-ending rain was pouring down. I ran barefoot and stumbling down the mountain road, with the staff, the housekeeper, and the driver all following me. I shook off their hands when they tried to help me. I saw them circling me, their faces wearing that same old cold, disgusted expression. They seemed desperate to take me back, but no one dared to grab me. They just followed a dozen feet behind me, calling out advice. The heavy rain blurred my vision. My body temperature dropped rapidly in the raw spring air, and I couldn't stop shaking. The soles of my feet were cut by sharp stones, leaving traces of blood in the puddles on the road, but I could hardly feel the pain. My consciousness drifted in and out. Would my little Jasmine be sold to someone else? Or would it be discarded as a defective product? Either way, the thought was like a knife in my heart. I walked numbly down the mountain, step by step, until a car suddenly stopped in front of me. Alex jumped out without an umbrella. I kept walking, as if I hadn't seen him. Alex grabbed my arm. "Leo, let's go back." I shook him off and kept walking. The next second, he wrapped his arms around me. The scent of wormwood filled my nose, but it brought me no comfort. I struggled violently in his arms. "Leo, stop it. Let's go back first," Alex said, holding me tight. I didn't say anything, just fought with all my might. But the difference in our strength was too great. Even with everything I had, it was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. I suddenly felt so helpless, struggling. I gradually started to cry in Alex's arms. The sobs grew louder, until they turned into full-blown wails. "Alex," I cried out his name between sobs. Alex held me tight, his chin resting on the top of my head. His voice was hoarse. "I'm here. What do I do?" "Boo-hoo." "Alex, what do I do?" "Wah." The downpour was torrential. The sound of the rain drowned out my heartbroken cries, creating a world where only the two of us existed. "It's okay." Alex patted my back gently. "I'll help you find it." He whispered a promise in my ear. "I'll get it back for you." I cried my heart out, as if I was letting out all the sadness of the past few years at once. Alex held me so tight. His warmth seeped into me, but it felt so insignificant. I was shaking violently. I let him carry me into the car, and amidst my hoarse sobs, I finally exhausted myself and lost consciousness. I felt like I was trapped in a long, chaotic nightmare. The air I breathed out was scorching hot, but my body was racked with chills. I was shaking, but my mind was so muddled I couldn't escape the nightmare. Someone was propping me up, pouring some bitter liquid into my mouth. I whimpered, the spoon uncomfortable in my mouth. I'd just fall asleep when I'd start coughing violently, throwing up all the broth and water I'd managed to swallow. My lips were parched and burning, like a flaky pastry that would crumble at the slightest touch. My breathing was heavy, my mind unclear. I thought I was still running in the rain. My voice was weak and hoarse. It's gone. It's okay, we found the jasmine. A low voice coaxed in my ear. I'll show you when you get better. I pried my eyes half open and found myself wrapped in a blanket, leaning back against a gentle embrace. I had no energy left to think. My heavy eyelids closed again, and I mumbled through my nose, "Is that you, Alex?" Alex's voice sounded utterly exhausted. He held me from behind, rocking me gently like a child. "You're burning up. You can't even recognize me." In that chaotic memory, bitterness and sweetness intertwined. A shattered mind, violent coughing, frequent vomiting, and an embrace that smelled of wormwood. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a violent coughing fit. Someone gently patted my back. I couldn't stop coughing. My throat was on fire, and I could barely breathe. I was helped up, leaning against someone. It took a long time for the coughing to stop. "This is awful. Am I finally going to die?" "Alex," I whispered, my eyes wet with tears from the coughing. Alex's voice was deep and magnetic. He pressed his cheek to my forehead, as if checking my temperature. "I'm here. It hurts." My voice was so soft, I wasn't even sure if I'd said it out loud. But Alex heard me. He held me a little tighter. "Where does it hurt? Where did it hurt? Where did it hurt?" Strange, I couldn't even say for sure myself. "It hurts so much." A sob caught in my throat. "I'm in so much pain. Alex, it hurts so much." I repeated it over and over, not understanding where the tears were coming from. Alex held me even tighter, resting his chin in the crook of my neck. He asked softly, "What do you want?" Just like that day in the car when he said, "You can tell me if there's anything you want." What did I want? My mind was foggy. I whimpered, but even in my delirium, I was too ashamed to say what I really wanted. "I want you to mark me. Why won't you fully mark me?" My answer seemed to surprise Alex. He was silent for a moment, then turned me to face him, holding me. "Why do you want to be marked by me?" Now it was my turn to be silent. But Alex wouldn't let it go. His eyes were dark as he asked again, as if the answer was incredibly important, as if he had to hear me say it myself. "Why? The moonlight slipping in through the window was hazy. I looked at him with red-rimmed eyes, not speaking. Alex finally relented. He said, "Okay, when you get better." He paused as if to confirm and repeated, "When you get better, I'll mark you. And then you can't take it back. You'll never be able to leave me." But I wasn't listening. I reached for the gland on the back of Alex's neck. "Now, not now." Alex's voice was a little hoarse. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at him, sniffling. "Right now." Alex finally surrendered to my gaze. He couldn't refuse me. He sighed, grabbed my wrist, and bent his head to my neck, biting down gently on my gland. "There." I reached up and touched the back of my neck. There was a very faint tooth mark. It was a clumsy trick. But my fever-addled brain, now a pile of goo, had lost all ability to tell the difference. It was easily fooled, believing I had really been marked. I was so tired. I rested against Alex's chest, surrounded by the thick scent of wormwood pheromones, and mumbled, half asleep, "When are you marrying Miss Anne?" "I'm not marrying her." "Liar. You are." "Miss Anne said she'd invite me to the wedding." "You're remembering it wrong." "No, I'm not." "You are." "I never said I was going to marry her. I never kissed her, never held her. I never even held her hand." Alex buried his face in my neck, rubbing his stubbled chin against my skin. "Leo, I would never marry someone I wasn't in love with." Alex rambled on and on in my ear, but my brain had shut down. I couldn't process what he was saying. Before he could finish, I had already fallen into a deep sleep. This fierce fever, in the end, did not take my life. I opened my eyes and looked at the empty room, my head a little fuzzy. I turned my head. On the windowsill, a weak little jasmine plant was struggling to grow. Outside, the sky was clear and blue. That apocalyptic rainstorm felt like it had just been a dream. Only the rich scent of wormwood in the room told me that those fragmented memories, the bitter and the sweet, were all real. I threw back the covers and got out of bed. Days of being bedridden had left me top-heavy and light-footed. I almost fell, steadying myself on the nightstand before I went out. I pushed open the door. The housekeeper saw me, froze for a second, then hurried over. "Are you feeling unwell?" I pursed my lips, shook my head, and asked, "Where's Alex?" The housekeeper said, "Mr. Reed just went to bed. I'll go inform him of your condition now." I stopped him. "Don't. I'll go see him." I quietly closed the bedroom door and walked to Alex's bed. He was asleep, half his face buried in the pillow. The visible half of his face was stark, his features strong, his complexion pale. He'd lost some weight. I watched him like that for a long time. Time had been kind to him. Deep-set features, a sharp jawline. Such a captivating face, almost no different from 5 years ago. Suddenly, his lips parted, and he mumbled something. I leaned closer to hear his sleepy words. He said, "Nothing else matters. Just get better. Leo, as long as you're okay, that's all that matters." He repeated it over and over in his sleep, like a believer praying at a shrine. My nose suddenly stung. Why did two people who loved each other so much end up like this? Why was it so hard to say the love in our hearts? Why did we both have to test and torture each other, with neither one willing to be the first to speak? I looked at his tired face and finally couldn't resist reaching out to gently stroke it. My hand traced his chin, his nose. Just as I was about to smooth the lines between his brows, Alex opened his eyes. Our gazes collided unexpectedly. Alex looked dazed for a second, then finally came to. The first thing he did when he woke up was to reach out and feel my forehead. I let him touch me, watching him sigh in relief and sit up. "Why are you up? Why aren't you wearing a jacket? The AC out here isn't as high as in your room. What if you catch a chill?" I watched him fire off a string of questions and hurriedly turn up the thermostat, but I didn't answer. I just stared at him. Alex, feeling my gaze, finally realized he was overreacting and fell silent. The atmosphere became a little awkward. After a while, he asked hesitantly, "What's wrong? Leo, are you not feeling well again? We found the jasmine." "You have a fever," I said. When I touched his face just now, I'd noticed his temperature was abnormally high. He was running a fever himself, but the first thing he did was check mine. Hearing this, Alex froze. A moment later, his mouth opened, but all he could say was, "I'll be fine after some sleep." "Alex, I'm a little cold." Alex's expression changed. He threw back the covers and said, "Get in. Don't get chilled again." I crawled into Alex's bed. He carefully tucked me in. The next second, he froze completely. I wrapped my arms around him, burying my face in his stomach. The quartz clock in the room ticked slowly but steadily. I sniffled. A moment later, he reached out and patted my back, releasing a clumsy, comforting wave of pheromones. "Why are you crying again?" The moisture in my eyes was quickly absorbed by Alex's pajamas. I buried my face in his embrace, my voice muffled. "Alex, thank you for everything you've done." The scents of wormwood and orange filled the room. They were no longer fighting, but slowly merging, creating a beautiful, hopeful dream. The doctor said Alex's fever was caused by a combination of factors: being out in the rain, exhaustion, stress, and releasing an excessive amount of pheromones for several days in a row. Just as he'd said, he was fine after some sleep. Alex's illness barely affected him and passed quickly. He was better after just a little rest. I, on the other hand, had been through a series of accidents in just a few short months and had lost an alarming amount of weight. My clothes hung on me, empty. However, what worried Alex the most was that my previous numb and dazed state seemed to be getting worse after the storm. I noticed my memory was failing. I often forgot things that had just happened. My perception of the outside world was diminishing. Sometimes I couldn't hear people talking right next to me. But I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I was just immersed in my own world. It was just a little less crowded, a little quieter. Until that day, when I saw someone I'd never seen before pick up the pot of jasmine in my room. In an instant, it was like a switch was flipped in my body. The extreme fear and despair from the rainstorm came rushing back, swallowing me whole. My limbs felt frozen, my joints cracking. An overwhelming agony instantly killed my reason. I heard the person scream, and then the sound of countless footsteps rushing toward the room. A group of people burst in, Alex at the front, his eyes filled with undisguised panic. Behind him was the housekeeper, then a group of maids. Alex stood a few steps away from me, his body tense. He first yelled at the person, telling her to put the plant down. The person seemed to be in shock, standing there foolishly. Hearing Alex's words, she hurriedly put the flower pot down. Alex waved his hand, telling everyone else in the room to get out. The housekeeper asked worriedly, "Mr. Reed?" But Alex just nodded at him and said, "It's fine. Don't scare him. You all go out first." After everyone else had left the room, Alex looked at me, his voice gentle. "It's okay, Leo. Put the knife down." My breathing was ragged, my eyes bloodshot, my mind a buzzing mess. I watched Alex's mouth move, but I didn't know what he was saying. My hand was shaking uncontrollably, clutching the knife. Deep inside, I couldn't stop terrifying thoughts from sprouting. Alex slowly approached me, extending a hand. "Here, give me the knife." It's okay." As his hand was about to touch the tip of the blade, a jolt of fear shot through me, and I suddenly let out a scream. The sound didn't seem like me, it didn't even sound human. It was distorted like a dying animal. I brandished the fruit knife, accidentally slicing my own left forearm. Tiny beads of blood rolled out, but I didn't even notice. "Leo!" Alex cried out. The next second, he actually reached out and grabbed the blade with his bare hand. "Mr. Reed!" The maids at the door cried out in alarm. A few of them even looked ready to rush in and subdue me, the dangerous element. "Don't come in." Alex frowned and snapped at them over his shoulder. "Close the door." The people who had already stepped inside froze. After a moment of hesitation, they reluctantly retreated, leaving the door ajar. I tried to pull the knife back, but Alex held on tight. Dark red blood dripped from between his fingers, quickly forming a small pool on the floor. I stared at the knife. The handle was in my hand, the blade in Alex's. One end pale, the other crimson. I didn't quite understand what was happening. A vein throbbed on Alex's temple as he watched me intently. After a moment, he slowly raised his other hand, cupped the back of my head, and pulled me into his chest. "It's okay, Leo. The jasmine is still here. Did she scare you just now?" I buried my face in Alex's chest, dazed. Amidst the ringing in my ears, I heard his gentle voice, along with his soothing pheromones, slowly enveloping me. Alex's voice was very soft, just loud enough for me to hear. It was like a clear spring, slowly flowing into my heart, rescuing a person dying of thirst. "Don't be scared. She moved the flower, right? Only Leo is allowed to touch the jasmine, right?" I don't know how long passed, but my hand finally trembled and loosened its grip. The knife clattered to the floor. "Good boy." Alex's uninjured hand rubbed the back of my head. He continued to whisper, "It's okay. Don't be scared." As consciousness gradually returned, I couldn't believe what I had just done. I stood there, stunned, listening to Alex's repeated reassurances. After a moment, Alex seemed to notice the trembling in his arms had stopped. He took a step back to look at my face. Due to the blood loss, Alex's lips were a little pale. He smiled at me. "Feeling better?" I looked at him with a strange expression. After a moment, my gaze shifted down to his right hand, hanging by his side. That hand was completely stained red and was still dripping blood. The flesh was torn open, deep enough to see bone. It was a terrifying sight. A tidal wave of shock crashed through me, and my body, which had just stopped shaking, began to tremble again. My vision went dark as a hand smelling of wormwood covered my eyes. "Don't look. Don't be scared," Alex said softly. My lips trembled violently. Took me a long time to force out a single sentence. Alex, am I going crazy? No, Alex answered quickly. His voice was calm, but it had a strange, reassuring quality. Your heart is just a little sick. Don't blame yourself. It's my fault you're sick. I'll make you better. Just give me some time. Okay? Alex's wound was deep. The doctor said he had severed a few nerves. After surgery, he wouldn't be able to use his right hand for a month. He moved a lot of his work home, saying he needed me to take care of him. I knew this was just his way of comforting me after he noticed my guilt. Sometimes I'd go to his study to pour him a glass of water, only to have him stuff a handful of fruit in my mouth with his unbandaged hand. He'd wrap his arm around my waist, looking a little frustrated. How come I can't fatten you up? I gave a bitter smile. Who's taking care of whom here? Alex said with righteous indignation, you're the patient. I'm the injured one. We're taking care of each other. I just smiled wryly. Then what about Missin? Who's taking care of her? Alex pulled me closer. What do I have to say to make you believe me? We never planned to get married. We weren't even dating. It was just a rumor we put out for business reasons. Alex buried his face in my stomach.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I was wrong. I won't do it again. But Alex and likes you. You can see it in her eyes. I ruffled the back of his fluffy hair. What can I do? I was clear with her from the very beginning. Alex said, his voice laced with resignation. I have someone much more important I need to make things right with. Today, I moved my little Jasmine to the balcony to sunbathe. The spring day was perfect. Everything was growing vigorously, filled with the vibrant energy of hope and new life. Even my little Jasmine, on a quiet night, had sprouted a tiny, new green leaf, as if it was planning to grow with all its might in this happy spring. I was using scissors to trim its old, yellowed leaves when a pair of hands wrapped around my waist. Alex's hand was already out of its bandages. The new surgical technique had left only a very faint scar. Alex buried his face in my back, his voice muffled. I saw your phone. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. I was sure my phone had been in my room all day. Your old phone, Alex added. I saw that you called me so many times back then. I was still surprised. How did you see it? Your dad gave it to me, Alex said. He wants us to be happy. Leo, why were we apart for 7 years? Alex's chest was pressed tightly against my back. I could feel the vibrations from it, and my own heart began to beat in the same rhythm. I listened in silence. He told me how much he regretted it, how he had hurt me. He held me so tight, as if he was afraid I would suddenly disappear and he wouldn't get a chance to make it up to me. His words were filled with guilt and self-recrimination, painting himself as a heartless criminal. But who could he tell his pain to? A young master who had lived a privileged life, who had never faced a setback. Overnight, his family collapsed, his parents died, and his lover betrayed him. How did he survive falling from paradise into dust, losing everything? Alex, was it hard walking alone these 7 years? Did you ever cry? And yet, all that overwhelming hatred and suffering was so easily swept away by a few call logs from 5 years ago. It was only in this moment that I finally understood. All these years of mutual torment, of painful pushing and pulling, it was all because of love. Because love always makes you cry. Because love is never satisfied. This time, I heard Alex's prayer in his sleep. Nothing else matters as long as you get better. It was my illness that made him recognize his own love. Now, holding me, he was both happy and sad. A mess of contradictions. It was those call logs that had confirmed my love for him. I turned to face him. His eyes, so clear and transparent, reflected all our tangled love and hate. In that chaotic storm of emotion, I found myself, a tiny reflection, hidden in the deepest part of his eyes. I reached out and touched his cheek. Alex, you asked me before if only I could touch the little Jasmine. That's not true. You can too. I looked at his slightly widened eyes and smiled. Alex, I love you. This journey has been bumpy and full of twists and turns. I used to think I was the one chasing love, but now I know I have always been the one who was loved. On this road, Those hands that smelled of wormwood pulled my stranded little boat back into the water again and again. After sailing through 1,000 storms, it has finally docked, battered and bruised, at a warm, well-lit shore. And this time I want to be the first to say it. Alex, I love you, just as you love me.